everyone, it's Seji, and today I will be talking about the books that I finished reading in December. So yeah, let's jump into it. First off, I was far too ambitious with my TBR and I knew it, but I still did it. Either way, I definitely didn't read as much as I would have liked to, but a lot of my reading time went into actually like working on the Blacklit challenge, so yeah, I don't really mind. Anyway, I still managed to read 9 mangas, 1 graphic novel adaptation, and 7 books/novellas. I actually made a separate manga wrap-up video, so if you'd like to watch that, I'll leave a link in the description box. Now, the first thing I read was Gorgeous Georgians by Terry Deary. This is part of the Horrible Histories series. It's basically these little booklets where they talk about specific eras in history and they show the more gruesome parts of those times. I have an entire box filled with these books and I have been enjoying them, but they're starting to, I guess, like take me a lot of time. I feel like I'm losing a bit of interest, losing kind of like my mojo when it comes to this series. So I think this will be the last one I'll be reading for now, and then probably in a couple of months I'll try and see if I still am willing to continue with the series. Otherwise I'll just donate them. The next one I read was Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. This is like one of the 3 little booklets that came along with the Harry Potter series. This one contains a couple of folk tales within the Harry Potter universe, and I thought it was alright. It reminded me a lot of Tales of the Peculiar by Ransom Riggs, which was one that I thoroughly enjoyed. It has about the same setup. Basically, you have the tales, and in between there are notes written by one of the characters. In this one, it is Dumbledore. In Tales of the Peculiar, it's Millard Nollings. The reason why I didn't really love this book was because I felt that the notes were too much. There were too many footnotes, and a lot of times the notes were just as long as the stories, and so I kind of got bored. The stories themselves weren't all too interesting, although I do appreciate that they were a bit on the darker side. It kind of reminded me of the tales of the Brothers Grimm. But yeah, I would have to say that my favourite was The Tales of the Three Brothers. It's about 3 brothers who manage to cheat death, and then death offers to fulfill one of their gifts, and yeah, that's kind of like how the story unfolds. Don't want to spoil it. I also read Blue Flowers by Carola Saavedra. This is a book that was translated from the Brazilian Portuguese to the English, and it's basically about this man. He's recently divorced, and so he moves into a new apartment. He feels socially removed from everyone, including his ex-wife and his little daughter, until he starts receiving these letters from someone who signs off as A. These letters are addressed to the previous tenant, and it seems that A and that tenant had a not so great relationship, and it kind of like went up in flames, and so she just pours out her heart in these letters, and this guy just starts getting more and more obsessed with her, and he tries to find out her identity. I really love this book. I think I read it in like a day or something. It was great. It was really interesting. I actually made a video review for this, but I still need to edit it. So if it's not up right now, it will probably be so in about a week or something, I guess. Yeah. Then I also read We Wish You Luck by Caroline Zancan, and this is a campus novel about a trio of graduate students who are part of a low residency MFA program. And so basically on campus they are sort of admired by all of the other students who actually wrote this book. But they really keep to themselves, which kind of like creates this mysterious atmosphere to them. Either way, at some point there is this new associate professor who comes to teach in their program, and things get crazy. This story involves love, death, and revenge. It's really dark, really interesting. I absolutely loved this book. I actually got the chance to talk to Caroline about it, so if you're interested in that interview, I will put a link in the description box. Then I also read Freddie Mercury, The Great Pretender, A Life in Pictures. Now this one doesn't really have a lot of text. There are just a few pages that look like this, but for the rest it's just a lot of pictures and a few descriptions. And the reason why I got this book was because I wanted some high quality pictures of Freddie. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I also read the graphic novel adaptation of Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. This was originally a YA novel. In this world you have noughts and crosses. Crosses are the people in power who rule over everyone, and noughts are just the people who are living under oppression. It follows Sefi, who is a cross, and Kalim, who is a knot, and they grew up together and they start falling in love. But obviously in such a world, relationships between knots and crosses isn't something that is accepted, tolerated, and so their romance takes a very tragic turn. I really enjoyed it. However, the thing that a graphic novel takes away from this story is that you already know that the crosses are black and that the knots are white. In the novel, it's only later on that you find out that that's the case. So I can definitely see the type of impact that such a book has if you don't know about that inversion. But nevertheless, it's a very interesting story, and it has really motivated me to try and pick up the novel itself soon. I also read The Ballad of Black Tom, written by Victor Laval. This is actually the first of his works that I've read. I have his Destroyer, which is a comic book that he wrote inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and also another one I believe called Devil in the Silver, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, this is a reimagining of one of H.P. Lovecraft's short stories. I have a full review coming out soon because I think this is a very interesting book. It's always been hard for me to find horror stories written by black authors, so if you're looking for one, I would definitely recommend this. It's about a young black man called Charles Thomas Tester who lives in Harlem and who basically hustles in order to keep a roof above his head and his father's. At one point he makes a delivery to a sorceress, and from that point things start to get really crazy. He attracts the attention of two cops and a very wealthy man, and things really spiral out of control. But yeah, it's a crazy book, but really, really interesting. There are a lot of dark things in here and it's really well written. And what is funny as well is that this was inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, who you might know was a huge racist. And so it's cool, at least for me, to see someone take one of his stories and have it center around a black character, specifically a black man in the 1920s in America. And then finally I read Cinderella Liberator by Rebecca Solnit. This was one of the 2 picks for the Our Shared Shelf book club for November-December, and it's basically a feminist retelling of Cinderella. Now, I didn't really know the tale of Cinderella. I think I watched the movie when I was 4 and that was about it. But I went ahead and read the version that was in the Brothers Grimm book, which was really morbid, and also the one with the pumpkin, which I believe most people are familiar with. I read those 2 just for reference. I really wanted to compare them, and I actually liked Solnit's one more than the other 2. After reading Solnit's one, you could really see how outdated they were, in the sense that the focus of the story is that Cinderella finds a man who can support her, and that is her happily ever after. And now we're in a time where marriage isn't seen as something that is necessary for a woman to do in order to live a comfortable life. And so from that perspective, I believe Solnit did a great job. I have actually an entire video coming out based on both this book and the other book pick, which was Whose Story Is This? Old Conflict, New Chapters, which is about like who gets to decide the narrative that people listen to. How is society structured at this moment? How was it in the past? Where are we heading to? What do we have to do? And yeah, it's just a brilliant collection of Solnit's essays. But yeah, those are all of the books that I read in the month of December. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. A huge thank you to Barbara, Klavak, Chris, Diane, Jen, Nikolai and Tara for supporting me over on Patreon.